So it looks like we're live. Probably wait a little bit for some people to hop on. But yeah, if you guys haven't listened to the podcast before, basically how it works is we do a formal podcast interview. Then at the end, it's followed by Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, make sure to drop them in the comments. And if there's any questions, we'll go ahead and get them answered at the end. So today I am joined with my friend Ashley Herrera. Ashley, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah,
Excited to
thanks for
have you on.
having me.
Awesome.
Yeah,
So
I'm excited too.
for people who don't know, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Ashley Herrera. I am a mortgage loan expert. I also focus on home building, and we build spec homes in San Angelo and Abilene, Texas. And I'm also a TV host for a TV show called The American Dream.
That's awesome. So how did you first get started in real estate, and how did you make the switch over to everything else you're doing?
Yeah, so really my journey started with being in the mortgage business, and that really started whenever I got into banking. I started at Wells Fargo, started as a teller, then worked my way up. And at that time, I wanted to make more money. And the next step was to find a different job. I ended up going to a smaller bank that would allow me to process real estate mortgages that they were originating there. And then I hopped into the actual mortgage side of being an assistant, opened my own processing business, became a loan officer where you truly make the money, and became a manager from that point forward. And with time, the business allowed for me to be able to save money from paychecks to be able to finally hop into uh, starting our first fix and flip. And that again was super scary for one, because we had no idea what we were doing, and we were using our own money. And but we took action, just started into it. And actually, whenever we got into it, it was kind of a bad, we thought was bad timing, is when everything got shut down with COVID. And that's literally when we started our journey, was to us the worst time of the market. But it allowed us to be able to learn different things. And, we kind of got in the market where things started to get more expensive. The materials were skyrocketing because the, prices for material comes from different areas. And with that, the shutdown, it increased the materials for us. But we didn't know any better. We just took it. And, now that things are getting a little bit better, we're starting to see a little bit more return since materials are starting to go down.
That's
And
awesome.
then, yeah, from there, that's when we decided to build. And that's really when we started to learn
Yeah.
about cost.
So that's great. So can you run people through kind of what the difference is, like, for if someone's brand new, like doing a fix and flip versus doing a whole new construction?
Yeah, so fix and flip, it's a home that's already available that you can literally see. You can walk into it. You can see the different things that might be some things that you have to fix, such as walls, tile, windows, that kind of thing. And you're going to go in there and figure out how much it's going to cost to be able to get it done. You can act as your own general contractor. Of course, different states have different criteria of what that means. But here in Texas, we can act as our general contractor, and we subcontract out each of the different types of jobs that we need done on the fix and flip. And whenever you get started on that, it's a little scary because you don't really know costs. And that's whenever you're going to have to kind of hopefully maybe get a mentor if you can, or if you're going at it by yourself, just talk to different people, talk to different subcontractors, see what bids are, and kind of get an idea of costs. Now, when it comes to new construction, you're starting from the ground up. You're actually doing a whole lot more work beforehand before you get started, because you have to actually find land or find a lot that's available for you to build on. You have to make sure that you can actually build on it, because there's a lot of lots and lands out there, but they're not zoned correctly. And if that's that can be a problem for you if you go and think, oh, there's this amazing piece of property right here, I'm going to buy it, and then you don't look into it and you can't even build on it. So We see that a lot. We see a lot of wholesalers who will come to us and say, "Hey, I got this property." And my first question is, what's the zoning?
Mm,
As long as it's residential or medium density, that's something that we can actually build on. And since we focus on single family and or duplexes. So if you have something that's commercial, of course, that's going to be a whole different sector of building. But if you're looking at single family, look for single family or medium density, and also look for the county information to ask them if you can build on it. It's literally as simple as picking up the phone saying, "Hey, I'm looking at buying this property. Is it possible for me to build a single family home or a duplex or whatever you're looking to buy?" And getting all the cost up front, you're gonna kind of know what that is whenever you get all your bids, but you have to have somewhat of a cushion because although with new construction, to me, it's a lot easier because you know exactly the steps that need to be done. Stuff can happen, especially when it comes to the land or the lot, and you think it's ready to go, and you might need more. I forgot what it's called, but basically the pad needs to be higher than we thought it was going to be, and it costs more money to do so. So um, I would say that it's almost the same, except you
mhm.
just have more steps at the very beginning to be able to get new construction done.
That makes a lot of sense. So, which would you prefer to do? Would you rather do a fix and flip or a new build?
A new build for sure.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Is it the better profit margins or?
Well, it depends. So it depends on the area, it depends on what you're building. So for us, we focus on affordable homes. So we kind of stay no more than 200 to 210,000 when we're going to resell it.
Mhm.
So with that market, we're not going to make a whole chunk of money with it. There's a reason behind of what we're focusing on for that type of home. And
Mhm.
then whenever you have a fix and flip, I mean, if you get it like an amazing deal and like you have like a huge amount of spread, you can make a
Mhm.
lot more money, honestly, on fix and flips versus the new constructions. Again, depending on what market you're hitting.
Right.
But overall, I like the new construction better because it's literally like step by step what happens. You
Mm.
know, step one, look at the lot, and so forth. And then when it comes to any problems during the process, it's just usually weather or like if you have a subcontractor who, they have an illness or family problems, stuff like that. Usual stuff that doesn't really affect the timeline so much, so long as you know what you're doing.
Mhm. That makes a lot of sense. So, what's the average turnaround from you get a lot and then you turn it into a house?
Yeah, so our average turnaround is about 3.5 to 4 months.
Mhm.
So it's pretty quick. If you're a fix and flipper, I know there's some people who are amazing and get those things done in like a couple of weeks, but most of the time people think they're going to get their fix and flip done in like a month or two, but it becomes 3 or 4. So it's
Mhm.
about the same turn time of what it would be for a fix and flip.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know. So, what advice would you have for someone that wanted to start doing fix and flips or new constructions?
Yeah, for fix and flips, definitely just start taking action. If that's something that you've been wanting to do, there's people who talk about it all the time and like, oh yeah, I'm going to do it, and then they just never do. Um, for me, it was more of like the money part of it. I really wanted to make sure that I had enough funds to be able to have, our first fix and flip to where we didn't have to rely on anybody else.
Mhm.
I quickly learned that you can leverage money.
Yeah.
So I would recommend leveraging money because it allows you to expand your business much further than where you could go if you just did it by yourself, relying on your own funds.
Mhm.
The other part, as far as the new construction, whenever we started new construction, we had no idea what we were doing. And we just had to do the research and find a lot and just do it. I know that whenever we first found our lot, we paid, I think, like $8,000 for it, which was a really good price point at the time that we had found it. And then from there, although we didn't know like the cost of what it was going to be, we just still did it. We just still pursued and moved forward with actually, taking action. So if anything, take action. Yes, it can be scary. If you have anybody who has done any fix and flips or new construction in the past that you can team up with, I really feel that being able to create a relationship with somebody who can help you, whether that be, with funds or the expertise or whatever the case is, that will help you get further than if you were to do it by yourself.
Mm,
And I know that from experience.
yeah. That's definitely a great point. So going back to contractors and subcontractors, how do you find yours, and how do you find good ones, and make sure? Like I know a lot of you people hear a lot of horror stories and getting taken advantage of or picking the wrong ones. Do you have any advice for
Yeah.
people on picking contractors or subcontractors?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's, of course, one of those things where you're going to have to go through people and find the people who are actually good or not. We had to go those rounds with our subcontractors as well. And what we initially did was start asking in the area, hey, who do you know? Oh, so you're a contractor to help us do tile and the floor. Well, who do you know that can do, kitchens and the cabinets or granite? And that's when you start to really become more comfortable because they're going to refer you to somebody that they've worked with in the past.
Hmm.
And sometimes it happens to be that they're not great. And that happens. But if you can allow yourself to understand that it's going to happen, and also understand that if you have enough discipline to be able to get these subcontractors to not have you pay them up front, but allow them to allow you to pay them at the end when the job is complete, you will have more success having good contractors,
Mm,
because they're going to want to get paid. If they know, if you set the expectation up front and say, this is how you need to do the job, this is what I'm expecting, and this is when I'm going to pay you, and they know up front, then you shouldn't have any issues. Now, if you get a subcontractor, obviously you don't have those relationships with them yet. You don't know them. They don't know you. They're probably going to ask for money up front, and then again, just sticking to it and be like, nope, that's not how we do our business. We're going to pay you at the end when your job is complete or you don't get paid.
mm,
And they're going to get it done. So in the past, I always go back to this story whenever me and my husband first bought a house that we had, and there wasn't any grass in our front yard, in our backyard, and we had a lot of dirt. And this man came around and said, hey, I can help you make this awesome backyard feature. I can like put these hills and make it cool because we had a lot of dirt. So I was like, oh, that'd be cool. Let's do it. So he's like, "Okay, yeah, and it'll cost this much. If you can pay me, I'll come back tomorrow and I'll get it done." And we're all excited. I was like, "Oh my gosh, he's gonna make our backyard look amazing." And he never came back.
oh no.
And I always go back to that because I was like, if like, I don't know if this happens to you guys, but I really felt in that moment that was my lesson
Mm,
to know in the future to not ever do that again.
right.
And I took that lesson, although it was not a lot of money, it still impacted me enough to know that I will never allow myself to do that, even when it came to the business with new construction. And obviously, new construction, it's a lot of money,
Yeah.
it's thousands of dollars. So, that lesson really, really has impacted our business and has really helped us to be able to make good decisions.
Yeah.
Uh, and there will be contractors who will just say, "Oh, okay, no, then I'm not going to do that," and be like, "Okay, great, thanks.
Hmm.
Move on to the next one."
Yeah, no, that's great advice. And yeah, it's crazy how
Mhm.
those things happen, and at the time they suck,
Mhm.
and especially when you trust someone and they take advantage of you. But
Yeah.
if you, as long as you take a lesson from it, I mean, yeah, it's always huge. Are there any other lessons that you've learned along the way that you kind of wish you knew when you started or when you were first starting out?
Yeah, I do. So whenever we first started with Fix and Flip, obviously we were brand new. We didn't know about hard money, honestly, at that time. Although I'm a lender, I was on the residential side of lending at that time, and I didn't understand any of it until I started to do more research about hard money and private money and all the other monies you can get. And whenever it came to new construction, I found out you could get money, we couldn't get money. And it's because we were too brand new. And that's why I keep going back to, if you can find somebody who has that experience in the new construction business and can actually show somebody that they've completed jobs, what their work looks like, how many years that they've been in business, they have a license, whatever it needed, whatever the private money or hard money lender needs,
Mm-hmm.
and even the bank, because they're not going to give you a chance at first without that experience. I would go rounds and rounds and rounds with banks, with hard money lenders, with private money, everybody, but nobody would give us a chance. So we had to use our own cash initially for the first 2 deals for our new construction loans. And then finally, we were able to get private money. I'm sorry, hard money. And hard money, I will say, is very, very expensive. But the reason why I wanted to use it was for the experience, to show other banks, hard money, and private lenders could do it. And with that hard money loan, we did 7 homes at one time. So you can imagine it was a huge amount of money that we were borrowing, and the time frame of getting them done was of the essence, because money adds up every second, every minute that you have that loan. So I would say that if you can get a partner or somebody who has the experience to help you get those funds to actually start something like that, you're going to be like 20 steps ahead of everybody else. Now, if you're doing it on your own, be prepared to have cash money to do it on your own. Or if you have family members or somebody who's willing to give you money to invest, I mean, that's another way that you can take that money to start a new construction business.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. Yeah, I feel like when you're starting out, especially with hard money, you have to pay more because you don't have the experience, and it's really cool. Like what we did was we partnered with someone who had experienced a lot of flips, so we were able to get those favorable terms. And then once we did, I forget how many
Mhm.
deals it was, but I think it was like once we did 3 or 4, then we were able to qualify as a more
Yeah.
experienced investor.
Yep. And then for you to actually qualify for that too is, most of the time that you're going to want to close in an LLC.
Hmm.
So make sure that your name is on that as well, or you don't get the
Right.
credit. So you want to set yourself up for success to make sure that you're getting the credit. Otherwise, it's going to keep you getting harder and harder for you to get deals.
Hmm.
Or
Yeah, that's great advice. I feel like something a lot of people probably miss. But
Mhm.
awesome. So, can you walk us through what your favorite deal was, and just kind of like start to finish how you got it and how it
Yeah.
worked out?
Yeah, so obviously my favorite deal was the 7 houses at one time, because it was a lot. It was a huge experience that, we never experienced before, obviously, and, just having to kind of figure out how everything needed to be maneuvered to be able to get it done. From the very beginning, it was awesome because we got an awesome deal on the 7 lots that we purchased, and that really gave us a leg up because we had purchased the property cash and we had it in our name. And then when it came to the hard money part of it, it took us forever to be able to get that money because they kept asking questions. And again, we were new, but we had 2 under our belt at that time. But still new in the eyes of a hard money lender who's like, how are they going to take on all of these 7 houses
Mm.
at one time when they've only done one at a time previously? But with showing them like the experience of the previous fix and flips that we had as well, because that helped in our work that we got done with those houses, and finally getting that loan to be able to break ground. And when you break ground, it's like, yay, finally we get to start. And getting that on the way. And then it's really, really what it was a fact. We started with one, then to the second, and then to the third, and then so on. So everything just really just flowed like it needed to. And honestly, that whole package deal of houses went amazing. My only issue was the hard money lender that we went with. They were very difficult to work with. The amounts that we had asked them for, they were only giving us a percentage of whenever we were due 100% to the subcontractors. So that was something that took us for a surprise because we didn't know that that's how it was going to work. And although they told us something differently, and with hard money fix and flips, usually whenever you get a job done, you show them the invoice, the completed work, they'll pay you 100% back.
Right.
So you can pay the contractor. Well, that was not the case on this new construction loan. And it really put us back on, funds. We had to find funds. Like, how are we going to pay our subcontractors? They're going to get mad because we're not paying them. Would they just finish their job? How are they going to finish the next one now?
Right.
So that kind of thing was very frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Although frustrating, we learned so many lessons throughout that whole project. And it was the funnest and the best experience because now we know what to look for.
Right.
Now we know that, we'll never work with a hard money lender again, ever, because of the way they treated us and, just the type of business that they were doing. And we would love to do it again, and we will do it again, and it will be a bigger project. And having multiple houses at one time, it's just really fun to be able to go after the challenges. Although it's not that big of a challenge anymore because everything flows so easily because of our subcontractors. They know exactly what they need to do. We try to stick to the same floor plan, so it's like, hey, there's no questions about what you're doing. You already did it like 9 times before. So that makes it easier for our subcontractors. And again, with the target housing that we're going after, we can kind of keep it that way because these houses are affordable, and the clients that come in, they love them. They're beautiful, and that's the fun part about it. Is just being able to get the families in there that actually love their house and can live in it for 30 years to come.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm sure it must be a really cool experience just seeing like dirt, this land, and then you go
Yeah.
the whole transition start to finish.
Yeah.
But I love that I said, what's your favorite one? And you picked one. You said there's so many challenges. It's so stressful, but at the end, it was all worth it. And it's so
Yeah.
crazy how when you just keep pushing through and the times that seem the most stressful end up being the most rewarding.
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. So yeah, so I want to switch gears a bit. I know you mentioned in the beginning your TV show. Can you kind of tell us about the show and how you got that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was, I think, a year in, we're in September. So about a year and 10, 11 months ago, I had wanted to find a way to be able to separate myself from all the other loan officers because, I mean, everybody's a loan officer. And it's like you have to find a way to be able to be different. And I really wanted to find a way to be on TV. That was my goal. Didn't know how it was going to happen. I was super shy. I was like, no way. I don't even know if this is possible. Well, it just showed up one day and I applied for it. I did an interview and it was a TV show called The American Dream. I was like, that is so weird. Like, that is so me. Like, how is this even gonna like come up and say the American dream? Because that's literally what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And once we actually had the interview and everything, I felt like, okay, yeah, this is a true thing. This is actually happening. I was picked to be able to be a TV host and then started 2 months later filming from the time that I decided I wanted to be on TV. And again, going back to, thinking about things that have happened, it's like, okay, well, this is what I wanted to do. And it more like manifesting kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing and put it out there to the universe and it comes right to your face. And it's like, it's here. And ever since then, I'm going on a year and 10 months in October that I've been doing the TV show and actually just filmed an episode on Wednesday, which was so fun. And I just have become so in love with the TV show because it really brings a lot of joy to me. At first, it was very hard because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what to say. I have to come up with the content. I have to be able to, um, have the story. And so far, I feel like every episode has been really good. And now I feel like I can figure out what I need to do. I'll show up and everything just flows. And it's so much easier, so much fun. And I really enjoy it.
That's awesome. I love that. I think it's so cool, and you're highlighting all the small businesses too, and getting to
Mhm.
put them in the spotlight, which is really cool.
Thank you.
So going back, so I know you mentioned manifesting. How really literally just 2 months later. Is that something you've always kind of been into? Is
Yeah.
identity visualization and
So
manifesting?
not for like maybe not so much like 5 years ago.
Hmm.
Because I would say like 5 years ago was whenever I really started changing my mindset on like who I was going to be as a person, or our family, our values, and all that kind of good stuff. And I really have big faith in God and really rely on what He needs me to do to be able to help other people. And I really feel like being in the real estate business and how everything is just connected and how it just flows so easily is what I'm supposed to be doing. And along with the, believing and having faith that I can do something and this is what I want to do. And if it's in favor, in God's favor, what will happen, it will. So I don't know if manifesting is the right word, but it is in a sense, but it's more relying on the faith of what God wants me to do.
I love that. That's great. Yeah, it's crazy how when you get focused on what you want and you make a decision, it just
Yeah.
crazy how things seem to work out.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. So yeah, so one of the other things kind of like to go over. So again, we have like a lot, mostly focused on like newer wholesalers and people just getting into real estate. So for land deals, what's a good deal for you? If someone gives you a deal, what does that look like? And do you have any tips for like newer wholesalers just starting out?
Yeah, so as far as the land deals, we don't like to pay more than 10% of what we're purchase or going to sell it for. I know that we're hitting like the 200 to 210, but we still don't even like really spending that much either.
Hmm.
Uh, the most we like to spend is like 10 to 15,000 per lot if possible, and obviously less. In addition to it also depends on if it's in a flood zone because that's extra cost that we have to put into the property to be able to get it to code, and that costs more money. So if you have a deal and it's in a flood zone, don't expect me to pay 20% or even 10% because it just costs way too much for us to be able to um, get it to where it needs to be. Uh, but yeah, like I said, our first lot we bought was about 8,000. The 7 lots that we bought, those were about I think 65 to 7,000 a piece, so that was really good. Um, and then a couple other lots. I think the most we've spent is about 13,000.
Hmm.
So anything under that, I will consider.
Awesome. And then where do you buy? What markets?
We're currently buying in San Angelo, Texas, and Abilene, Texas. We like to buy the lots that are in between houses that are already existing.
Mm.
And due to it's cheaper for us to be able to go in and tap in on the water tap and the sewer. And, in the areas that need development. So need a how can I say it? Need a little more pride in the neighborhood. So
Hmm.
adding in a new construction home around the houses that don't look that great, it really creates somewhat of a sense of pride for the neighbors too, because it's like, oh, we're getting this nice house in here. They're keeping their yard nice. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and keep my yard nice. So that's the hopes for it too.
That's great. That makes a lot of sense, and I'm sure it's easier to you to already be there and you know
Hmm.
be in the neighborhood. It's already established.
Yeah.
But That's awesome. Well, I know I've gotten a bunch of great takeaways and a bunch of values. I really appreciate you coming on. What's the best way for people to follow you or to connect with you?
Yeah, I have everything on theashleyherrera.com. You can find all my socials on there. You can also find my application link if you need any private or not private, hard money, residential, new construction, commercial. We have all the types of loans that are available. So don't shy away from that. Although I'm a home builder, I still give money too.
Mhm. That's awesome. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. And yeah, we'll definitely have to do this again.
Absolutely.